Hey, okay, how are you? I will be going over this in class, but I wanted to start now so I could show you how to begin this. And so you can see on my board, I sent an email today with some information about the supplies you might need. A board, a 3/4 inch board. This is just an old scrap shelf. I've got lots of stuff around like this. And then you can see there's a plumbing flange or floor flange or pipe flange that I screwed into the board. First I didn't exactly mark center. I just made a cross and then I popped that thing right there in the center and screwed it in with some screws that I found. It's in there pretty securely. I chose a 3/4 inch flange. 1 inch is pretty heavy, 1/2 inch just seems a little wussy. So I go for 3/4 inch, okay? I put in here, I think, it's a 6-inch pipe because I'm going to pop some shoulders in there first before I add the rest of the pieces. So I'm going to start with my clay shoulders and just pop that on there. And now I just trapped a bunch of clay in that pipe, and that's, I think I did mention on the email that I usually like to cover the top of the pipe with some tape or something like that so I don't get a bunch of clay in there. And I'll do that on the top part, but this is not the top yet. All right, so I'm going to pack that's going over a pipe, and we all know that clay shrinks, so what is she thinking of? So obviously I'm going to be cutting this thing off later. In the meantime, I'm going to whack it to try to get to some kind of shouldery stitch. All right, so here's my pipe configuration. There is 3/4 inch. This is a 45-degree elbow. Then I think I've got a 2.5 inch piece here. Then I've got a 90-degree elbow. I've got a 4-inch piece. So I'm going to put this in here, screw this on. Okay. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? Okay. Let's try popping this head form on here. Pop, 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 pop. Okay, so looking at it, we can see it's too small, right? So the average cranium, do you know how big the average cranium is? It's about 8.5 by 8.5. Isn't that funny? So if I were to measure myself from here to here, ta-da, with my calipers, and I take a measurement. Let's find out if I'm normal or not. Oh, look at that, I'm normal. 8.25. That's average, isn't it, between 8 and 8.5? And so the other interesting thing is that from, I got my pom-pom up, but from the front up here, from my nose, and the back of my head is also the same. So we're squares or circles. So obviously she's not quite big enough. It's okay. I can add some clay up there still. I got to get this whole chin thing going on. And then obviously this is going to be a lot bigger. So it's time to start packing some more clay on, don't you think? I think so. 2 things I'm going to do first. I'm going to spritz her down a little bit. Spritzy, spritzy, spritzy. Okay. I'm going to spritz my little pile of clay I have over here too, because I want to make sure it stays damp. You know, it's 104 today outside. I may be exaggerating, but it's hot in here. I'm going to drape plastic over my clay because I want to keep that damp, right? And I'm going to score her up. So I've got a couple tools that I can use. I've got this big tool that's used for applying concrete and tiles, right? I'll probably use a smaller tool. Some of you have seen this serrated rib at school, so I'm going to use that. And I'm pretty much going to just do her up. Because I'll be adding lots of clay in lots of places, and I know we've all experienced parts of our pieces plopping off, flying off in the kiln if we trap some moisture, trap some air. Whoa! Ah, you know what I didn't do here? I didn't secure that. I didn't tighten it as much. But as soon as there's clay on there, that'll stop flopping around. Okay. So why don't I take a piece of clay right now and pack that in there, support her head a little better. Did you know that our neck is practically as thick as our head? I want you to look here. Look at my head, my neck joins my head. I guess in a picture like this, I look like I'm a lot narrower, but if you can look at the back, let's look at the back of my neck. Look at my neck, is not much narrower than my head. So we have to really think about, right now, this woman has got sort of a twig for a neck. Alrighty, so now it's really time to look at the bust, right? The proportions and where it's not working. And so this is when we can start looking at some of the many images I sent you or the photographs that you took. A combination of both is ideal. Okay, so thinking about the skull. Look at that. You see that big round ball with the jaw attached? I think my figure over here has got some problems for sure. So you can see the face and you can see the layout. And I think this diagram of the skull also shows us pretty clearly how the things we need to think about. But something that's really interesting, you can see it's wider towards the back. Gets wide at the cheekbones, and it's really wide right back here, right where I have it narrowing out. It's actually considerably wider. So now is the time to really pay attention to all the images that either you found yourself or you're using some of the ones that I sent you. I think this one is pretty good too, that has the different planes that you can pay attention to when you're sort of paddling in the form, because I'm going to be paddling this now and adding clay to try to get this shape a little bit better, a little more accurate. And then once I've got that done, I'll divide it up something like this, center line and those side lines, so I can lay in the eyes, the brow, the nose, the mouth, etc. more or less accurately, okay? All right, remember, we know that the eyes are basically halfway in between top and the bottom. So 8 inches, this is 4 right here. So we'll start by putting that in there right there, right? And we're gonna do that nice little sort of notch that ultimately becomes the bridge of the nose. And if you wanna just kind of go for it now, you can start gouging out those eye sockets. And so typically they kind of come down. And there's actually this ridge over here anyway, bony ridge. So I can take that clay that was there and sort of move it. Move it around. There we go. Now, let's just put a landmark of a nose in, right? Now, looking at this image, the midsection for the eyes, right? And then the rest of the face is kind of divided in quarters. And if you did this one earlier, based on the email I sent, you'll see how the back of the head as well is divided in these kind of quarters, right? There's the 1, 2, 3, and then the half, really. And then the face is divided almost equally in thirds. So we can use that when we're trying to make him look better. But I think I'm just going to pop a little triangle for a nose in there right now, so we have a landmark. And I don't have one of my scoring. I don't know where that scoring thing went, but I'll just like scratch it up a little bit, right? if you watched the Tip Tolan video, you saw that Tip uses these skewers to see to try to get a level. To mark things levelly, and I think it's a good idea. Knife instead, I think that makes more sense. Where's my big knife? Big sculpture knife, big sculpture knife. Let's mark that and mark that. Okay, looking back at this face, outside of the eyes, outside of the eyes. The chinny chin. This is the lower lip, right? The eyes, eyebrow. Okay, let's see if these things work. Now we have to bisect the head too, because we want to make sure that the whole thing is symmetrical, right? Or more or less. So we just take this line like this. I'm going to go over the top. And then back here, I'm going to divide this in half. I'm going to see if these lines meet. Not too bad. So, but putting that line in, I can see that this skull is not symmetrical. Can you see that? It's kind of bumpy over there. Not quite as, maybe we need a little bit more oomph right down here, huh? To even things out. Scary profile. Oh my gosh. But this too is going to help us when we get I'm sure you all know about those lovely ears. Let's tip her whole head a little forward, I think. We all know about the bottom of the nose and the ears, right? Boink. And hopefully line that up when we get there. Okay, time for me to do a little bit more. Maybe I'll get a few lip-like things on there just to sort of get those landmarks in, right? Again, I should probably score a little bit. There's one of those emails I sent you. I mean, one of the links in the emails I sent you from the beginner's school, I think. They have a nice little tutorial on making lips and eyes and ears as individuals. So if you haven't checked those out and you're interested in this, I think they're pretty worthwhile. Now, if you go back to looking at Mr. Guy here, we can see more how the planes of the face work, right? Let's see here, what else do I have? And I have this one too, which actually helps for looking at the muscle groups for older bodies. So we know typically, the outside of the mouth just hangs out a little bit outside the lips there. So, well, what a difference a chin makes, huh? Starting to look like a human being again. Men have bigger brow ridges than women usually. Neanderthals have really pretty big brow ridges. I am at least 3% Neanderthal, and I'm sure you could tell that. That's more than the average Homo sapien. That's okay. It turns out the Neanderthals were a lot more clever than we thought they were. Absolutely. They had great skills, I think. Very durable people. All right, so I think this guy's just going to set for now. This is a good place for us to stop